Hi, this is Jenny Pivor. Welcome to Jenny's Muse. Tonight we are having a very interesting show. I have these two gentlemen, and they're going to be discussing reading and performing from their work on the topic of dating on the wrong side of 40 from a straight and a gay perspective. And I think that we've got some laughs and some tender moments ahead. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce them. And we're going to have their readings first, and then I want to get to the heart of where all of their stories come from. So on my right is Judah Leblang, and on my left is Randy Ross. And Judah, would you like to start? And before you do, actually, why don't you talk about where the stories are from and the books that they're from and taken from?
So the first piece I'm going to do is a piece from, I have a one-man show that I developed that I've done at a number of fringe festivals and various other places. It's called It's Now or Never, My Life in the Late Middle Ages. So it's partly about getting older, it's partly about dealing with kind of trying to live a creative life, and various other things I didn't order from the catalog. So that's the focus of the first piece. And the second piece is from my book, which is called Finding My Place, One Man's Journey from Cleveland to Boston and Beyond. And it's, yeah, and this last part of the book is also about kind of dealing with middle age and, you know, looking for love and other things that didn't go according to plan.
So as an ex-Ohioan, is it any of it about dealing with Ohio?
Yeah, actually a lot of the book,
Overcoming Ohio?
well, I go back a lot,
Yeah.
and I really have an affection for Cleveland, where I came from. But when I was growing up there, the city was kind of on the down slope. But I would say when I go back now, it actually is kind of
It's cooler.
it's coming back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, in fact, I'm going next week, and I'm going to be teaching a writing workshop there. And I have a second book which is coming out in the fall, and my publisher, which is called Red Giant Books, is actually based in Cleveland, it just so happens. So I still, and I'm a Cleveland sports fan, which is a form of self-mutilation.
Oh my God.
I've written numerous pieces about that suffering, but we're very loyal. So I'm still, after all these 30 years here, I'm still a Cleveland fan. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know, I'm crazy.
Wait.
All right. I'm gonna just do this for him. I invite a man home for the first time. Let's call him Sven. He's Swedish. And we've been out twice before because I'm shy, especially when it comes to sex, and I'm not that easy. And I want to get to know him first. And now we're gonna do it. And I've invited him to spend the night. Picture him, my sexy, earthy, hunky date. He's lean, muscled, sapphire eyes and golden hair, a killer smile. He's 45, but likes older men, fit older guys like me. He pulls me in for a kiss, sucks my tongue, licks my chest. Our bodies meld as he pushes me down against the bed, his cool Scandinavian breath merging with mine as he twists my body into a series of foreign shapes, a new form of partner yoga. I worship him as the minutes turn into hours, until our bodies are spent and we unwind into two separate selves. He flashes his dentine smile, which leads to a final kiss, and then I reach out to pull my nightstand closer. It's where I store my gear, tackle, equipment. Picture him as he scans my nightstand and takes in the devices I need to breathe, to sleep, to make it through the night. His luscious lips, a soft circle of surprise. Here are the tools of my trade. A CPAP machine about the size of a loaf of bread, complete with control panel, mask, and hose. an atomizer with eye wash for my dry eyes, gel for my dry eyes, and a mask to keep the gel and eye wash in dry eyes, an oral device or mouthpiece which moves my jaw and teeth forward during the night so that I can breathe, antidote of the night so I can sleep, and last but not least, nasal strips to promote breathing. Picture him as he shakes his blonde head, pulls on his boxer briefs, and mumbles something about an early morning meeting, a doctor's appointment, a fire sale. So Sven, how do you like me now? How do you say CPAP in Swedish? I'm too sexy for my CPAP, too sexy for my mouthpiece, too sexy for my nose strip, too sexy for my gel. It was all a dream. Sort of like when Bobby Ewing woke up on Dallas and he wasn't really dead. It had all been a bad dream, or in this case a good one, until Sven left me bereft. Even in my own fantasy. It's a piece about being in Provincetown. So I was actually taking a writing workshop there. And it happened to be during Carnival Week. It just so happened to be in August. So this piece I call My Training Bra. It's Carnival Week in Provincetown, the height of the summer tourist season, an unlikely time for me to show up on the tip of Cape Cod. Still, I have the time and know what to spend it with, so I sign up for a creative writing class over at the Fine Arts Work Center on the east end of town. Taking a class in Provincetown would bring me together with handsome men, fellow artists and writers. Here are my classmates. Tessa, a 40-ish hippie filmmaker from Austin. Tina, who's finishing up her MFA at Emerson. Joan, a 60-something housewife with the husky smoker's voice and cough to match. Randy, with an I, a performer on the women's circuit. Deborah, Dina, Laura, Lisa, these women like their names run together in my mind, since as you recall, I was hoping to meet a man. There is one other guy in the class beside the married straight instructor. That man with his dark chocolate skin, white teeth, and lean muscular build is nice looking and about my age. My gaydar beeps, and I imagine a liaison between us, until he mentions his partner of 15 years who turns out to be white, lean, and equally good looking. After several days in town, I slip into a store called Body Body. I'd been there the previous fall when they were having a sale and their prices were adjusted from utterly ridiculous to merely expensive. Their clothes are designed for men with biceps like melons and butts like cantaloupes, not for thin, middle-aged guys like me. Their clothes expose one's physique, sheer mesh t-shirts and microscopic swimsuits. Heading back to the sale rack, I discover that 50% of $200 is still a lot of money. But eventually I find a sky blue tank top, size medium. A bit short, a little snug, but well designed to display what little muscle I have. A few minutes later, I'm back out on Commercial Street, the town's main drag. Looking around, my eyes bug out at the sight of one mouth-watering beauty after another, their buff pecs and butter-smooth skin on display for all to see. Meanwhile, I feel like a human blood clot, an obstruction unworthy of their notice. I'm not looking for a one-night stand. I simply want to be seen by one of these handsome studs strutting by in their tank tops and cargo shorts. As I walk against the flow of traffic, most of the men are heading over to tea dance at the Boat Slip, a local bar. I understand for the first time the frustration of teenage girls. Like them, I pull back my shoulders, straighten my back, and thrust out my chest, determined to fill out my version of a training bra. For a moment or two, I feel pretty good about myself. You see, my chest and flat stomach remain north of the equator, and I still have bladder control. But my pecs, the ones I've been working on slowly over the last year at Workout World, barely make an impression against the cotton fabric of my new shirt. As I scan the crowd, one man after another, blonde hair, black, brunette, all bronzed and sculpted, I pull the shirt down, forcing it to fit my body. But there's still a gap at chest height, as if the shirt were waiting for me to grow into it. I'm a 51-year-old man, hearing aid tucked discreetly behind my left ear, striving for youth, lusting after men a decade younger. But the only look I gather is from a dusty, wizened character about my age, leaning against a storefront. Still, he examines me up and down with a look that might be lust or simply curiosity. Eventually, the tank top chafes against my dry, sunburned skin, the air cools, and I change into a loose-fitting button-down number, which allows me to walk normally and breathe naturally. The next week, I'm back at the gym doing the pec fly and the chest press. Next summer, when I return to Provincetown, I hope to finally fill out my new shirt. Until then, I welcome fall with its cooler weather and looser, less revealing clothes, which leave my flaws and assets to the imagination of the viewer.
Yeah.
Give us a little
Sure.
sample.
My book is called God Bless Cambodia, and it's about a chronically single guy who takes a trip around the world hoping to change his luck with love. So it sounds kind of wholesome and sweet, but it's not really. There's adult situations, there's adult language, and there's more adult situations. So
And the
it's,
title originally was,
actually, there were two titles. So the
Yeah.
publisher, they get to choose, but the
Yeah.
original two titles that I pitched were The Loneliest Planet, a play on the Lonely Planet guidebooks, and I also pitched a title called The Chronic Singles Handbook. And the publisher thought those were both too negative, so God Bless Cambodia was their choice.
right, and if you read the book, you find out why, but,
Yeah, I'm halfway through actually it's a sequel. So this book is pretty much about a single guy, similar to some Judas stories where, searching. The second book is actually the narrator, it's 10 years later, and he's actually in a relationship. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
okay, can't wait to read that one.
This is a scene out of the book that I reworked as a standalone short story, and the title is The Online Date That Went a Little Too Well. I met Maxie on Match.com. After weeks of emailing back and forth, we agreed to meet at a bar downtown. I waited 45 minutes. No Maxie. Back at home, I checked my answering machine. So this was back in late 1990s. Message 1. Where the hell are you? You better not have stood me up. Christ, this always happens to me. Bartender, bartender. Message 2. I just drove by your house and the lights are off. You better call me with a damn good excuse. Maybe I should have been put off by Maxie's outbursts, but her emails had always been a little testy. And when it comes to women, I've always had a problem telling passion from pathology. Moreover, I was suffering through a drought and hadn't touched a woman in months. Against my better judgment, I called. Guess who? I asked. Where the hell are you? I'm at home. What happened to you? I was at the Meridian for 30 damn minutes. Our date had been arranged online and we'd never spoken before. I found her language both titillating and terrifying. I considered hanging up, but worried that I might one day find a dead cat nailed to my door. Then I remembered her photo. Auburn hair, black running tights. I pressed on. Weren't we supposed to meet at the tavern on the Charles? I asked. Maxie sniffled and paused. Are you okay? I asked, feeling guilty for something I couldn't identify. I'm so sorry, she said. It's been a bad week. You want to come by for a beer? Maxie opened her apartment door wearing an oversized man's t-shirt that hung from an exposed collarbone to her mid-thighs. She swirled a huge glass of red wine and directed me to the couch. I watched her walk to the kitchen. Everything about her was long and toned, as advertised. I felt my face flush. She returned with a beer. As I sipped, she spoke about her ex-husband, and her demeanor softened. He had died a year ago, and she was now raising 2 kids and working full-time. She advanced across the cushions, asked why I wasn't married, and brandished a tin of Altoids. When I hesitated, she asked, "Don't you like me?" Yeah, you seem like a nice person," I said, retreating to the far corner of the sofa. She advanced some more and leaned in for a kiss. Against my better judgment, I puckered up. Then she bit me on the lip. I felt the sting of her teeth. The image of a hooked marlin flashed through my head. A moment later, I had her pinned against the armrest. I looked down at her breasts as they rustled in her t-shirt. Droplets of sweat collected around her navel. I felt my body flush. I thought about marlins. I thought about dead cats. Then marlins again. She rubbed me through my pants and flicked my zipper. "Let's go to my room," she said. She shooed 2 beagles off her bed, relocated an armful of stuffed animals, and pulled back the duvet. We grappled for several minutes and stopped when our legs tangled in the sheets. We jettisoned our clothes until we were down to our underwear. "Wait a minute," she said. Maxie rooted around under her pillow and handed me a humming plastic oval. I hummed around her slick belly and over her hips. I traced my name across the crotch of her panties. Her stomach clenched and relaxed and clenched again. I tugged the elastic to the side and rested my face on her smooth-shaven skin. She smelled like lavender. Her breath deepened. She started to groan, and then I heard the clitter-clatter of beagle feet as the dogs scurried from the room. They say that animals can sense a coming disaster. So this is one of those situations where I have to ask myself, why am I attracted to women like this? And could that be why I'm still single? The fish theory. You see, fish are not attracted to bait that is healthy and moving smoothly through the water. Fish are attracted to bait that jumps, quivers, and zigzags due to some type of distress. Apparently, I'm part fish and go for erratic, ziggy women who have moods that flop around like a mackerel on a hot sidewalk. Over the years, I've dated so-called stable women, but I just never got hooked. In my 30s, I dated a stable woman named Karen. But after a few months, I wanted to break up. I was tired of her constant cheerfulness, which struck me as phony. And her moods, unlike mine, never zigged or zagged. But I was also tired of being alone. So I consulted my therapist, Dr. Moody. He suggested I stick with her and sit with the discomfort. But being with Karen was like trying to see how long I could hold my breath. When she put her arm around me, I felt nothing. After sex, we had nothing to talk about. Worse still, she was a nice person, and I felt really guilty. Every week I'd go into Moody's office. "Can I break up with her now?" And he'd say, "Just give it another week." But my attraction to volatile women doesn't really explain why I'm still single. Lots of crazy people marry. Judging by the divorce rate and friends I know who have tied the knot, marriage is no barometer of mental health. But in my darkest hours, like those Saturday nights when I'm at the movies by myself and sitting in the handicap seat, I have to wonder, what's the matter with me? The valency theory. You see, certain atoms have the ability to bond with lots of different types of atoms. Other atoms are less valent and can only bond with a few types of atoms. Apparently, I'm the less valent type and can only bond with certain kooky, volatile atoms, which also seems to seek me out. We do connect, the result is an unstable, combustible molecule that eventually blows up. Case in point, Ricky. I met Ricky at a barbecue in Cambridge, Massachusetts, about 10 years ago. She had straight shoulder-length hair and a barbed wire tattoo around her arm. The tiny lines around her mouth indicated that she was probably about my age. Now, this barbecue was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So it was a vegetarian, gender-neutral, low-carbon footprint affair. I noticed Ricky because she had brought a huge bloody porterhouse. It looked like a prop for a slasher movie. I watched as she wrestled the thing onto the grill. She glanced at me. She glanced again. I gave her my one and only pickup line. So, are you having fun? As she talked, I looked into her eyes. It looked like she'd been laughing, or crying, or laughing and crying. I looked deeper still and could sense a disturbance, an electrical storm. I imagined her brain cells flashing, twitching, and jumping like herring being chased by a large carnivore. I wanted to be that carnivore. On our first date, she showed up an hour late, wearing Ray-Bans on an overcast day. Apologies for my tardiness, she said. I was up late last night at a Caribbean party. I was the only white person there. She had my attention. We went rollerblading. At one point, I pulled ahead of her. From behind me, I heard a loud ka-thunk, followed by, ah, crap! Ricky had slammed into a parked car. Now I was hooked. We bonded hard and fast, but after a few months, we hit that inevitable plateau and began arguing. Then we crossed the 50% mark, but the bad times outnumbered the good ones. We made an appointment with Dr. Moody. So what seems to be the problem? He's a neat freak. He's a hypochondriac. He has the worst taste in clothes and music, and he teases me all the time. Please medicate him! He's mentioning the teasing before. There you go, taking his side. That's the type of patriarchal attitude that used to get women locked up in mental hospitals. I knew this was a stupid idea. After the session, I called the shrink. Should I bail on this relationship? You know I can't give you advice like that. Let me rephrase. If I said I wanted to bail, would you suggest that I stick with it for another week? Probably not.
Well, you guys, both of your stories are so revealing and just very funny, and I'm just wondering, are they true? How much of them are true? And
Yours is a memoir.
Yeah, but I mean, mine is memoir, so it's supposed to be basically true. Yeah, I mean, it's Provincetown, my experience, I haven't been in a number of years now, but Provincetown would always, when I go, it's like this gay town in a way. So on the one hand, it's kind of cool to be in a majority, because that's not, my experience in the world, in the larger world. But at the same time, this is a recurring theme in both my first book and my second book of often feeling like an outsider. So, my story is I could be with a bunch of, Jews from the Midwest, and I would feel like, like growing up. I mean, I didn't feel like I fit there. So when I go to Provincetown, it's like everyone's got the perfect hair and the perfect clothes, and there's a whole look there. And not if you're not 25 or 35 and buff, it brings up. I don't want to use
play
it.
a role.
Well, it just it's a whole game, but this was about, because now I'm over 60.
I can hear.
But this was
I didn't hear.
Yeah, this was about 10 years ago where I went, and just was watching. I could see the humor in it even at the time while I was going through it. Wearing this tight shirt and kind of trying to pull something off, but knowing that I wasn't quite. I think I looked good, but it was just I could see the absurdity of it.
I'm sure you look good.
But it was, so to answer your question, it is basically a true story.
Uh-huh.
And I did think, being in Provincetown, I'll be in a class with some creative men, and my class turned out to be basically all women.
And that's in this book?
So that's actually, it's a piece that is in my, my original one-man show, which was called My Life in the Middle Ages. And so that's in here. And there's also a bunch you mentioned, because you're also from Ohio.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff about growing up in Cleveland in here as well. So
I'm sure similar
yes.
to where I grew up. So Randy, I know Ricky is a character in your book.
Yes.
Yes, right. So is Ricky a real character?
She's inspired loosely by somebody I know. I mean, so my book's a novel, but yeah, it's based loosely on a trip I took. So I took a trip around the world, had a rotten, miserable time, and it gave me a lot of material for my book.
I'm sure any woman that you've ever gone out with reads your books and goes, "Oh my God."
I don't think that's.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that's happened yet.
Or they read the books before they go out with you and they go, "Oh my God,
I'm not going out.
I'm not going out with this guy."
Either that, or they read it and they want to go out.
Well, yeah, has it happened?
Yes.
Well, that's really very good.
Actually,
Yes.
I did a fringe festival up in Calgary, and I met a woman up there. And our first date, she bought a copy of the book, and she really liked it, and we went up for a while.
That's fantastic.
So it depends on. Just got to find the right audience.
Yes, yes. Well, I do remember part of the character in your book. He had a spreadsheet, didn't he, on women that he dated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God. Okay, so Judah's from Cleveland, and you're from this area, right?
But no, actually, I'm from New York.
You're from New
I
York?
grew up in Westchester.
Really? I thought you're. aren't
I've
your
been here for
parents-
30. I've been here since '84.
Okay. So has Boston influenced your writing in different ways, do you think?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, the narrator in this book is from Boston. I mean, this is where I am now. This is
Right.
what I know. The second book also. So, this book takes place all around the world.
Yeah.
The second book is just focused. I mean, this couple, they're living in Boston. I mean, I live in Somerville, but they live in Back Bay. Actually, the woman lives in Brookline, and the narrator, lives in Back Bay.
Great. So when did you start writing
The book, or in general?
in general? When did Randy become a novelist?
I used to I worked for a computer magazine for 20 years, but I didn't start. I got laid off in 2007, and then I took this trip, and I had all this material, and I was trying to figure out how to turn it into a book, and I always wanted to write a novel, so it took me 8 years.
But you were already thinking at that point that you were writing short stories or something.
No, I
When
was
you
a
went on
journal.
the trip?
Yeah, well, I kept this blog,
Okay.
and and the blog was some true, some not so true. I was just trying to make it entertaining.
Right, and look what happened.
Yep,
Changed your life.
somewhat.
Right, so you both do fringe festivals. And so if anyone doesn't know what a fringe festival is, you go to Canada and different parts of the world and you perform your stories and...
There's actually, it's a circuit. It's like amateur theater, and there's a circuit all around. Actually, it's all around the world, but there's a circuit around North America that Judah and I've done. So the bigger festivals tend to be up in Canada, so I've did a small one in New York, Kansas City, San Francisco. I've done like 25 of them.
I've done fewer. I've done about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8. But I'm going to be doing 2 this summer, one in Calgary and Edmonton. And Edmonton is the largest in North America. I'll be one of 220 different acts, each doing, I think, 6 or 7 shows.
So do you have to audition for this, or do you put a proposal in?
No,
Or
you
what?
just, it's basically, the idea of most fringe festivals is they're not really curated, so you just, you put your name in and it's done on a lottery basis. And the Canadian festivals are challenging because they only take a relatively small percentage of international, non-Canadian acts. But I was fortunate to get into Edmonton this summer, and Randy was there last summer. We were both in Winnipeg last summer, which is also a large festival. So most of the people who do it many of them go and do many of them in a year, like they'll be on the road for several months. And many of them are about half our age. It's very competitive at the
Yeah.
bigger festivals because
Are
you're
you
trying to
taking
get
your
people.
t-shirt, your blue tank top, or?
I didn't try that last summer, but this summer I might.
Yeah.
Because if I work out a lot over the next
Yeah.
like 2-3 months,
Yeah, that's
who
a good
knows? But I would say that my show, because it's called It's Now or Never, My Life in the Late Middle Ages, there were some gay people who came to my show, but I think what I was getting was mainly a older demographic, people who would then relate to when I was talking about the sleep apnea stuff and some of the other things.
funny.
People in the audience were all like nodding or,
Oh, God.
or
Or
nodding off.
hopefully not nodding off, just nodding.
No, they were, a few not, no, mostly they were like, I could tell they could relate, and so some people came up to me after some of the shows and said, oh, maybe you should see my nightstand, or, various other things about references. The show is partly about aging, it's also about, I have a couple pieces in the show about mishaps on the road, like things that happened at festivals with a technician who, say fell asleep, or various other things. And then there's also some of the stuff like struggle to be a writer. It's all kind of built in there.
So we are running out of time. I want to use a couple of minutes so that people can find out about your books and where to find them and where to find you in case they want more information. So Randy, where would people find your book? We have some here for the audience if you want them, but also.
Yeah, my website is randyrossmedia.com. My book, God Bless Cambodia, is available up on Amazon.
Great.
And my website is basically my name, Judah, Judah, Leblang, Leblang.com. And my book is at Porter Square Books in Cambridge, and it's also on Amazon. I always encourage people to get the second edition because that has some of my newer stuff as well, and generally those are new copies because when Amazon sells used copies, the writer gets buckets.
Right.
So it's available through my website, through Amazon, and at Porter Square for people who are a little closer down to the city.
Super. Well, thanks both of you for being on the show. You
Thank
were
you.
wonderful and very funny, and I enjoyed your writing a lot and your presentations, and I hope the audience does as well. So this is Jenny's Muse. We have a show here at SATV once a month, and actually our next show is going to be a book launch for my book, and it's called OMG, and I hope you'll tune in next time. Thanks so much.